Greetings. Hope this finds you well. So I watched the interview yesterday that BPM did, Black Power Media did with Ajamu Baraka. He was the Green Party vice presidential candidate back in 2016 on the Jill Stein ticket. And they had him on to discuss Cornel West, and particularly Cornel West switching from running as a Green Party candidate for president to now as a independent. I thought his perspective and analysis was pretty interesting and worth doing a video about. So let's check it out. Again, shout out Black Power Media, doing really good work. And here they are interviewing Ajamu Baraka. They got Kamal Franklin, Jackie Lukman, and Dr. Jared Ball. And I'm not sure about that person. I haven't seen them on BPM before.
I'm glad to be here.
We hope so. We hope we're getting there.
I'm not gonna do a video of the whole thing, but it's definitely worth watch and listen if you have the time.
We gotta outpace the Breakfast Club, that's for sure. Welcome, Ajamu Baraka, the chairman of the coordinating committee of the Black Alliance for Peace. Brother, lots to talk about, comrade. Oh my gosh. So we had hoped to have you on. We had planned to have you on to talk about the announcement about Dr. West's campaign. And those plans were made like Thursday or Friday, but since then, so much more has happened. But so we've got to do a little bit of a rewind to talk about that, because we literally did not get a chance to dig into that because of the amazing revolutionary intifada that has happened in Palestine and that is still going on. But let's rewind a little bit, Ajamu, and talk about the announcement from Dr. West's campaign and the state of the campaign now.
Well, yeah, thanks for bringing me on to, you're right. There's a lot of things that are unfolding very quickly in this country and abroad. Really, I think it reflects the kind of deepening of this crisis. And it reflects too, the desperation and the confusion we see among ruling elements, and really among not just ruling elements, but even people who find themselves or define themselves as part of a left opposition. As you said, the announcement was made on Thursday that Cornel West has decided to,
so 8 days ago from today,
pursue an independent run. It's interesting that that's framed in that way, because some would argue that a Green Party is an independent run. It's independent of the...
It's an interesting perspective, right? Independent of the corporate duopoly outside the Republican and Democrat
duopoly. He claims that one of the reasons why he did that was because he wanted to communicate directly with the people and did not want to be encumbered with internal party politics. And we could talk about it, what that means. But the other issue that he raised that I think we have to really examine more seriously is the notion that one can engage in bourgeois politics without having a clear understanding or a clear objective in terms of what kinds of structures are you attempting to build.
Because that is a really good point. What type of structure, organization are you really building that's going to last after the election if you're just running as a independent? And I haven't seen anything from the Cornel West campaign even really alluding to that. But like the PSL candidates talked about, we're building a movement. We're connected to the PSL. We're working to, expand our organizational reach and capacity. Cornel running as an independent, that doesn't really seem like that's going to be a possibility.
And the challenge with his campaign now is that no matter what dysfunctionality or whatever people might claim that you have with a Green Party. You have an apparatus with the Green Party that has the most experience in the country in getting people on the ballot. There is they in fact
kind of important, right, to get on the ballot if you expect people to be able to vote for you in any type of significant number.
have real people in their formation. And it is from that foundation that the process started when he came over to the Green Party to get him on the ballot. And I think it's something like 18, 20 ballots right now. If you don't have an apparatus with people to get you on the ballot, then of course you have an option. But the option is the bourgeois option. That option is basically if you got a whole bunch of money, you can come in and you can buy up folks and put in place a field operation that can get you on the ballot. I mean, for example, the no labor.
Cornel, is his campaign going to be able to raise, probably would take tens of millions of dollars to make that a reality when, again, if he had stayed with the Greens, they're already on the ballot in almost half the states, right?
Labels formation, well, I'm not really formation, but the effort. They're going to run so-called centrists across the country, and they plan on trying to get on the ballot in all 50 states. Well, they have estimated that that will cost them $70 million.
70 million just to get on, just to get ballot access, and then that's not any other fundraising efforts for events or to run ads on TV or radio or social media. And obviously it's a huge indictment of the election system here. All elections should be publicly funded because these politicians are all bought and paid for by corporations, and that's also who bankrolls their campaigns.
Why? Because they have no foundation. They have no, and that's what it costs. It costs millions of dollars if you are operating without an apparatus. So we're told by the
Cornel West is
campaign that they're going independent or more independent, if you will, and then they're going to forego the 20 states that he was already connected to, and they basically going to build from scratch and start over again.
So, Ajamu, let me jump
in a year, like the election's basically a year from now. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right?
Because why do you think at this particular moment that Cornel West, in my opinion, outside looking in, would have been assured to be the Green Party nomination? I don't see how he would not have won the nomination for the Green Party. What intervening event or what has taken place in your estimation that has made this I don't know if a rupture is what it should be called, but it's made this 180 decision to now leave the Green Party, like you said, where there's assured starting off ballot access. It's almost like I'm leaving it and I'm starting from scratch. I've hired this new Democrat aligned campaign manager.
How about Peter Dow there, obviously?
What is it that's made this shift in your estimation to make him just cut loose on the Green Party and do this?
In such a short amount of time, right? He wasn't even aligned with the Greens for more than several months, right?
Well, let me say this. I mean, Cornel is a fighter. Cornel has been out there and raising issues for years that many people did not raise or would not raise. But Cornel doesn't have much experience in terms of movement building, in terms of how you, in fact, enter into the cutthroat environment of bourgeois politics, what it means, what it requires in terms of an organizational consciousness, a strategic consciousness. And as a consequence of that, I think that in their discussions, they convinced themselves that that they didn't have to be encumbered with the internal politics of the Green Party. Now,
they were Cornel or his team thought they were above that. They didn't think they had to do any of the politicking to get the nomination. But when you run as part of a party, you have to seek that party's nomination, and you're going to have to do a little bit of politicking, going to different states, different, events, saying why you should be the nominee, etc. Like that's seems pretty standard. And if you didn't know that going in, like it's also not a good look, right?
What that really means, you're only going to have to ask him, because the issue is this: as you said, there was no way he wasn't going to be the nominee, but it did require that he had to go through the process.
Yeah.
This is a real party.
Yeah.
So you have to do some politicking. You have to go to some of the state conventions. You have to put your stuff out there. All right, that's basic.
As you should have to, like that's bare minimum, right? You're running as part of a party. You have to adhere to the party's conventions in order to get the nomination. That's going to require a little bit of effort and work, as it should. That's part of the process, as Ajamu was saying.
Accountability. But according to what he said the last couple of days, and you have to ask him this, he said he wasn't prepared to engage in that. That was going to be too time consuming, he says.
And again, if that's their perspective of why run, why not just start as an independent to begin with? It's a bad look either way. You should have known that before. If you're just finding out now, also not a good look.
So the decision that was made to go this long ranger route, and start over again. Now, look, if he would have gone that route when he left the People's Party,
then it would make sense.
Then maybe, that could have made some sense.
Perhaps. Yeah, exactly.
Even then, if the conversation would have been a question of going completely so-called independent, or aligning yourself with a Green Party, for example, I think those of us who have some experience in bourgeois politics would have still probably told him to go ahead and align yourself with the Green Party. Okay, that's just objective. Now, in some of his commentary, this is why we have to kind of push back. I'm not trying to be oppositional to Cornel West. I hope that, and you all may have seen that me and Jill put out a statement. We wish the campaign luck.
Talking about Jill Stein, who was on that 2016 Green Party ticket as the presidential candidate, and again, Ajamu was on the ticket as the VP candidate in 2016.
But we have to basically push back on some things. And one of the things was that, there was some kind of encumberment with, being a part of the Green Party, and that, it was going to require him to spend a whole lot of time with internal politics. That's just not true, basically. And so there's other issues there that people have to ask him about. But I think that the decision is.
Ajamu is saying like it wouldn't have been a huge time commitment from Cornel to do that little bit of politicking that is expected from a Green Party candidate, but they weren't even willing to do that. So come on.
His decision, but unfortunately, it is I think a tragic one, and I hope I'm wrong, but having to start over.
Hope so too, but it ain't looking good. Starting from almost having ballot access in almost half the states to zero, with no type of infrastructure or apparatus on the ground to get that going, and needing tens of millions of dollars because you don't have that structure and support. That is a huge undertaking. Obviously, it would have been a big undertaking running as a Green, but it's even bigger now running as a independent.
Again, in October, and build across the country is not completely impossible if you have money, but it's very, very difficult. And to be separated from the apparatus, to me, makes no sense. So it wasn't about the Green Party. He talks about, like, the whole issue is about the Green Party. No, the issue is about organization. The issue is about having an apparatus.
She has no organization now. It's independent, right?
Apparatus, okay? And if the Green Party would have benefited from his candidacy and became a stronger party, so be it. Because it's not just about, or it should be, just about the candidate.
Exactly. It should be about building bigger organization, building a movement that lasts beyond the presidential election cycle and has some power and force going forward to enact different types of social change.
Candidate-centered thing that we are supposed to be trying to support. It's about understanding that for the transformation of this society, you have to have an empowered people. People cannot be empowered. They cannot have agency without organization. So if you say not the Green Party, then the question becomes, what are you bringing people to? If you're going to bring people
apparently just to vote for Cornel, right? Because again, there's no organization, as Ajamu is saying.
Out of the Democratic Party, where are they going? Or is it just about the election? So these are some of the critical questions that have to be raised with our dear brother.
And hopefully he will come back on BPM, because they've had him on before. But I heard Jared talk about, I think in this interview, that Cornel is saying he just doesn't have the time right now. So is it because he would be pressed on this issue? Maybe he'll come on in a couple weeks and all this stuff will be addressed. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
And I think along those lines, Ajamu, I think I heard him or saw an interview where he talked about one of his concerns was that there was not enough outreach or involvement in the Black community in particular with the Green Party. And I think that is a real sticking point for me and a lot of folks who were looking at Dr. West's candidacy in the Green Party as a way to facilitate a level of organization in the Green Party that has not been present up to that point. I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? I kind of feel like Dr. West could have been that catalyst to get that level of on the ground organizing that we always kind of criticize the Green Party for not having in between elections. So how do you see his comments in regard to that aspect, that, you know, the Green Party isn't as involved in the Black community, doesn't have the connections with the Black community that he wanted, and that's another reason why he left? I mean, it seems to me that leaving the Green Party kind of defeats the purpose of addressing that issue.
Right.
Well, because you're looking at it from the point of view of an organizer.
See, there I go.
That makes perfect sense. That the fact of the matter is, as we all know, that the roots of into the Black community by the Green Party is not that deep. There's no question about that. But and he said the other day, he said, but nobody heard about the Green Party, but people knew me. Well, comrade, that's the point. Okay. Then you build the apparatus. Okay, it ain't about just strengthening the Green Party. It's about organization. All right. So you bring, I mean, people are prepared to in fact, you know, and maybe the Green Party would just be a temporary apparatus. But if you're not pushing for organization, what are you pushing for? Okay. He said, well, they all know me. Well, look, the people are not looking for no motherfucking savior. Okay. You know, at this critical moment in history, we need to get organized. We've got to resist. The enemy is absolutely serious. Okay.
Right on both of those points. Got to get organized. The enemy, they're organized, right? Look at the capitalist class. They're very organized.
We see it all around us. All right. And we've got to be serious. Time out for these novices, you know? And so, you know, this is what we're talking about. That basically, yes, it's been no problem at all bringing people into that process, building parallel processes. The people that want to come to the Green Party, parallel processes across the country on the state level to build an apparatus that could have had a pathway toward victory. See, what is so upsetting about this, and this might sound naive, and I said it before, with the particular kinds of configurations, political configurations today, with this no labels thing that's going to, if they put it in place, will pull votes from the Trump forces. The libertarians are going to be on the ballot. Okay, you got this freak RFK that may end up running as an independent. You know,
he is now.
You got the weakness of the Democratic Party with 40% saying they are prepared to consider a third party run. You have a situation that was developing for a plurality victory, actually a path to the White House. When you take yourself out of this process, and look, the bourgeoisie, the Democrats, you know, these are hardcore folks. They don't engage in idealistic politics. They understood that the threat that Cornel West represented was being on those ballots and pulling Negroes away from the Democrat Party. Okay, they know that the likelihood of him getting on these ballots in some critical states is very slim. So what has happened? He has eliminated himself from the contention of power. This thing is about power. It's about, we talk about organization, we're talking about building power. Okay, we're not interested in some star, even though we need to engage in some ideological struggle. We want to raise people's consciousness, but you raise consciousness and then what? Where do you route them? Okay, you have to route them toward organization. Everybody won't join an organization, but there are many people who would. It's about having a vision of what it takes to actually transform society and the kind of instruments it takes to in fact do that. And unfortunately, that's just not there.
I'm interested if Cornel is going to be open to having another discussion with us, because I mean, to me, like this point, it just points to sort of that history of Cornel individually, of continually
not being maybe connected to any type of kind of organizational structure apparatuses, as Ajamu was saying and Kamau was talking about.
Propping himself up over the commitment to build infrastructure and organization. And again, it's not so much that I disagree with, let's say 70% of Cornel's ideas, maybe 65, like I'm down with or whatever. But it's not actually shocking that he did pull out and prefer just to sort of do what he does. I mean, this is basically now sort of a pulpit march, right? He gets to go speak and he's not accountable. He gets to go speak and he's not accountable. He gets to go speak and he's not accountable. And then he gets to just say, the reason I'm doing this is to raise issues. So, and he'll raise his own profile. He'll find other ways to raise additional resources for himself or for things that he wants to raise resources for. But again, the accountability of running, I individually, don't believe he had any chance of winning, but he definitely had a chance of having an impact on the election in ways that now he cannot have when he was in the Green Party. And so I think it's, the only thing that I can think that made him do this was that somebody got to him, or somebody sat him down, or folks talked to him about the resources he could gain by doing this as an independent and on his own mantle, as opposed to putting himself under the dictates of the Green Party. I think on the end, it's probably far more important, because otherwise, from a rational standpoint, it's not rational unless you think about are there other money interests involved? Because that's the only thing that can make any sense as to why someone who says that they're seriously contemplating a run for the presidency, and to be the so-called president, you have to be nominated in 50 states. You have to be on the ballot. And the only place we had the most already guaranteed ballot
Green Party
access, he decides to leave, just to drop, to run a campaign, which is never going to raise enough money to put him on 50 ballots. It's just not happening. So the only thing that makes sense to me,
raise tens of millions of dollars, that would be a lot of very small donations from a lot of people, or if there's some wealthy benefactors able to wrangle up a bunch of money, which, I mean, I don't know, usually the capitalist class aren't going to be supporting a West candidacy.
and I'd love for him to sit down and really talk about this, is that somebody else is offering a better deal for him personally, because otherwise it doesn't make sense.
I just want to say before Ajamu, you respond that following routine channels, I reached out a couple days ago and he said he was, I think, citing travel, a little too busy at the moment, and he would get back with us, another time.
No more like one interview per week. He can't do that no more now.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna tell you. I actually suggested to them they have to stop that. Because look, the whole process of those interviews was to bring Cornel into this environment and others, basically, so he could be trained. Y'all helped train Cornel, okay? To sharpen his left perspective. And when he says that he listened, he learned, it's true. Okay, the brother's an honest brother. Okay, and that was the whole objective, was to solidify his credentials on the left. All that was relatively successful until he let Jimmy Dorn pull him out, or pull out his, and then the revolutionary blackout folks, then they engaged in basically a public lynching, and systematically it was unfortunate. And then on the heels of that, you had these other kinds of decisions that created that perception of what is going on here. Okay, now I'm gonna tell you the thing about Cornel. And again, it might sound naive or whatever. Cornel is one of those brothers who, in many ways, is incorruptible. You're not going to offer him any kind of money or anything like that. He really.
It does seem pretty accurate from just, I don't know, his public persona, his words, his message, his kind of track record, right? Like he's not gonna be bought out by some under the table, money grab or something.
He really believes in his calling for this. The problem, I think, and I've said it to him directly, he just doesn't understand movement politics. You all saw that when you were talking with him. He got sharper and began to understand it better. So he didn't know what he was getting into when he showed up at that ADOS conference. He has learned now, what's really out there, and it's been very helpful. So no, I think that what happened was, we never have really been have to be accountable to folks besides the people who pay your check. And then when you become a tenured professor, you are in fact a very free black man. As Brother Jared and others can tell you, to a certain extent, So,
Jared's like, I'm not really free.
Right. So when you've been doing this all your life, the idea of having to subject yourself to a process, maybe that's something he just didn't want to do. And he raises the issue of the example of Ralph Nader in 2004. Now, I used to raise the issue of Ralph Nader within the campaign in 2004 also, but for a different reason. Ralph Nader being an arrogant policy womp or whatever.
Wonk.
He was the Green Party nominee or candidate in 2000. He thought that meant in 2004, he was just a shoo-in. He didn't have to do any kind of
got to go through the process
of campaigning or anything like that. People were trying to tell him that ain't gonna work here. And that's what happened. He ended up, not getting the nomination. He ran an independent race. How many people remember that? That can't be the example. I'm gonna have to write your brother today, because in the last couple of interviews, he keeps on raising this Ralph Nader cat. Cornel West and Ralph Nader in two different categories. Ralph Nader cannot frame issues the way Cornel can. Okay, and so just drop that, and lead with the idea that you want to be independent. It's easier to get on which is relatively true. It's easier to get on the ballot as an independent as opposed to a party. Okay, in terms of what the requirements. So,
when you say it's going to cost $79 million.
Well, that's for the no labels folks. $70 million. Yes, it's they trying to get on there as a party, a formation. Okay, and they have no base, so you got to pay. Jared will tell you, it's enormously expensive. This whole ballot access thing, and the Green Party is kind of perfected, if you will, a process of how you do a combination of volunteers. Some folks get paid, and you get people on the ballot. In 2016, me and Jill was on 44 ballots.
You'll collect a lot of signatures, and that does take a lot of people on the ground, either volunteer base or some of them being paid, like Ajamu was saying.
Okay. In 2020, Harry Hawkins was only able to get on like 34 or something, facing also legal actions from the Democratic Party. So, the Democrats are about power. And so unfortunately, when the comrade took himself out of the struggle for power, he's still going to get some attention. There's no question about that. There's still a possibility of building an apparatus to get him on the ballots, and I hope that is in fact the case. But even still, we've got to push back. Those of us who understand organization, we've got to push back and not allow our comrade to confuse people. If you're not talking about organization, if you're not talking about building structures of resistance, you're just spreading confusion.
Which is
I end it there, but definitely check out the rest of the interview as well. So I thought that perspective and analysis that Ajamu was able to provide there was definitely worth listening to and considering, especially since he's been through that process as a candidate back in 2016, a process that Cornel West has removed himself from, took him out of that, organizational structure. And like they were saying, you don't have to be accountable anymore to an organization or to a party. It's running as an independent, as your own person, and you don't have that accountability, and you also don't have that probably potential to build further organizations or movements that last beyond the election. And I think that is a genuine critique and concern, right? Because you need to move beyond just election cycle movements, and what can you create beyond that that's going to lead to positive social change. So let me know your thoughts down below of this interview and West in general, and these several moves from different parties he's made to now being an independent. Peace, much love, all part of the people.